and welcome to episode 17 of Anniversary Edition. So today we're going to talk about the Shawshank Redemption, which this year celebrates its 25th anniversary. As always, please don't listen to this if you haven't seen the movie, although I don't think there's anybody that hasn't seen this film.
Yeah. Everyone's
don't
Shawshank
deprive
Redemption.
us of the stream. Like, if you haven't seen it, do listen to it, but maybe mute it.
Yeah.
Well, keep
Maybe,
it playing,
yeah.
mute it, and watch it, and then come back, listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Get us next review.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Stream.
See what we did there? Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm Sophie, and today I am here in the studio with...
Tom?
And Adam.
Hey, guys.
My name's Adam, not An Adam.
So this is a 1994 prison drama based on the 1982 Stephen King novella.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Frank Darabont.
Yes.
So, brief synopsis. There are two imprisoned men who bond whilst both serving life sentences at Shawshank Prison, and they find redemption and, spoiler, eventual freedom. So, Adam, when did you first see this movie?
All the way through?
Sure.
Last week.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had seen almost all of this movie
Right.
in a patchwork fashion.
Right. Just clips here and
you
there.
know what I mean?
scenes.
If you ever had, like, I'd seen 80% of this movie before I sat down and watched this movie all the way through.
Okay. Not the best viewing experience then, really.
No, because I think, oh, I know this bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know this bit. And I know this bit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually really similar to me. So I think it's just been on and I've seen like bits of it. Absolute
That's
patchwork.
how I first saw The Rock as well.
Oh,
wow.
no, that's a shame.
It's fine. It's fine.
This film was sold, the TV rights were sold. So basically Ted Turner owned a movie studio and he sold the rights to his TV, TCM. He sold the rights to it cheap, which meant that he could play it lots and lots and lots.
Okay.
And I think that is one of the key reasons you can attribute to its popularity. Is the volume, a bit like Wizard of Oz, it's the volume and regularity of which it was shown on television.
So when did you first
that's in the
see it?
US, I should say. I first saw it... When did I first see it? I feel I want to say recently, and then when I think recently, within the last 15 years.
I mean, that's recent. It's fine.
Yeah,
I know you're getting old when recently, the last 15 years.
Exactly, right? And I don't know, I guess around 2008, 2010, maybe, that sort of time. I may have seen it before then, perhaps. Maybe I saw it in the late 90s, not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to pin down.
Yeah. So it was like an overview because I hadn't seen this from start to finish.
Right.
I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
I'm slightly confused about the hype around it.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoyed it and I didn't think I would.
Right.
But that's kind of my very brief overview.
Okay. For me,
interpretation, yeah.
I remember when I first saw it, I quite enjoyed it. Thought it was a solid movie.
Yep.
Watched it again last night, which I feel must be either the second or third time I've watched it.
Okay.
I quite enjoyed it. It was a solid movie.
Yeah.
I think I always attribute this, like, whenever you ask someone what their favourite film is, you can tell.
Oh my God.
If someone says The Shawshank Redemption, then usually they're not into movies. There's someone who watches movies occasionally, but they don't watch a lot, or they don't obsessively watch films.
But
But they've seen The Shawshank Redemption, and they've gone, that's a really good film. That's going to be my favourite film. Because it's a solid film. Like, it's a well-made, it's a solid movie.
So few
absolutely.
downsides to this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can understand why it has... I kind of always equate it to Coldplay.
Oh.
With the
Why can't people just say Jurassic Park?
But with the proviso that, like, people who aren't really into music generally like Coldplay.
Yeah.
people who aren't into movies.
Or Maroon 5.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or people who genuinely generally aren't.
At the time, but
People who
Super Bowl performance.
people who are generally into movies. You know, there are other things that are better than this, but it's solid. Like, it works. It's you know, So that's why I think it has this hype, because it's almost like.
It seemed to be quite like an intellectual kind of movie, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like,
I feel like it's cool to like the Shawshank Redemption.
Because it's a drama, and it's not like a comedy or it's not an action movie.
And it's not.
Andy
I mean,
Dufresne.
it's not quite the same as walking around saying, "Oh, my favourite film's Jurassic Park." It's like,
Jurassic Park is less cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's a much better film.
Yeah.
Sure. So, overview, Adam?
I'm well on board. This is a trio of agreement here. I think The Shawshank Redemption is an 8 out of 10. Good film. Well done. What else you got?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. So.
Right, next week.
So what are people's favourite moments?
So I think that what really makes this my favourite moments are any time you have Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman interacting together.
Oh, they're good.
They're great together.
Like,
yeah,
their
the acting
chemistry is, and again, this is like, it's a solid movie because all of the performances are solid.
Yes.
All of the characterizations are solid.
There's no weak link.
So here's my thing. Like, we talked about The Notebook last week, which obviously I didn't like, and I found it very difficult to like the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And here we have two people who you don't know. Well, two people who have committed murder.
Yes.
Because you don't know that Andy didn't do it.
No, you don't at the beginning.
You just have to decide whether you believe him or not. You have two murderers. And I find their friendship a much more romantic story than The Notebook.
Oh.
Well, they're friends under very extreme circumstances.
Yes,
they're
they
in the
are.
pressure cooker.
They are. But my point being is, like, you know, obviously it's not a romantic thing.
No, not at all.
In the kind of, you know, in that's in a sexual sense.
Yes.
It's
No, he gets that in an entirely different way.
yeah, which I'd forgotten about and was quite surprised by.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I kind of feel like it's when Andy escapes, you genuinely think, oh man, that must suck for Red. Like, he didn't even know.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's like he didn't even share it with him.
and you feel really bad for him. And it's
Yeah.
like, hang on a minute, this man murdered someone.
yeah.
Apparently
And
3
you're like,
people.
oh, I don't want him to be lonely.
Yeah. So I think that shows you, put the effort in developing the characters, put the effort in with the kind of plot and story and stuff like that, and it pays off in spades. And that's why it's so popular, I think, because it really does hook you.
So do you have like little snippets of favourite moments?
I really like.
It's like you say, it's every time they're kind of together and.
Yeah, I think there's a pivotal moment for me where, well, there's a couple of scenes. There's the scene where on the rooftop where Andy explains the tax laws to the prison
moment.
guard,
Yeah.
and you can see the attitude of the other prisoners change towards him.
Yeah.
That's a really significant moment. And he
Absolutely.
gets them the beer.
Yes.
And then later on, there's another bit where he and Red are in the library, and it's shot in an interesting way. They're either side of a bookcase,
and
and they're walking along, and they talk through the holes in the books.
Yeah.
And it's Andy explaining to Red just how crooked the warden is,
Yes.
and Red's kind of sort of amusement and just like
It's like
his
you can't
admiration.
make a person out of thin air, and he's just complete.
Because up
great.
until that point, Andy like Red's the guy. He's the guy that will get
Yep.
you anything.
Yeah.
And he's the cool guy. He's like, he's the mover and shaker, and that's
Yeah.
the moment where it kind of turns,
Yeah,
and everyone's
absolutely.
like, oh wait, Andy, like, he knows he's doing
making
stuff
things
that we've
happen.
never
Yeah.
even like.
Yep.
So I like those things.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I like in this. I think it
Yeah.
works really, really well.
Adam, how about you? Have you got any standout moments?
Yeah, I really like the character of Andy Dufresne and
Yeah.
the way he comes into his own, and the more power he accumulates in that prison, it's really fun to watch him glow up like that.
Yeah.
Do I have a favourite moment? I'm not sure. Getting the beer for the inmates
Yeah.
is big, and him finally finding a place in that prison is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for me as well, it's probably the roof scene. Like trying to pick specifically one moment is kind of tough, but I think because it's such a pivotal moment, like you say, Tom, like it really changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
It kind of establishes him as being part of the group, because and up until that point he's kind of in it, but he's not really got the kind of the camaraderie and the.
They've taken a shine to him because he's a bit of an oddball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it just looks so ordinary.
Yes.
Like it's so juxtaposed against all the other shots in the prison. You've got that one moment where it's sunny and they're sat on the roof. They could just be guys from anywhere.
Yeah.
Could be free men.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
that's the voiceover, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I really like that. Yeah. I also really I really liked the section with Brooks when he gets out of prison and you kind of follow his story a little bit. I got a bit emotional, I'm not gonna lie, watching that.
I think
I cried.
I think that's that's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
In its own, it's it's a poignant moment because it's still like that for a lot of guys that spend a lot of time in prison, get institutionalized, and then they're just left to their own devices.
And it's so sad when you see it like that. Like when you see it dramatized in that way, you can kind of understand it a bit more, I think, than you maybe would be able to if you're just trying to understand it in a day-to-day process.
Well, I mean, it's like when you read news stories about people who are going back to prison for like the 10th time, or you think, oh, they must be just such a bad person, and it's just actually no, they just genuinely got a
they want to go back in.
They just feel that's where they should be.
It's fun with it being a Stephen King's novella story. It occurred to me watching it that Freedom from Shawshank is the killer in this story.
Yeah.
If there has to be a killer in a Stephen King story, Freedom is that. Mm-hmm. So when you watch Brooks succumb to it, and then Red starts following down the exact same road, you feel the worse for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's ironic.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, because it's every day. That's what they're supposed to be working towards. Redemption.
Yeah, and freedom.
And it's like, but they don't. You don't want it because it will kill you.
Yeah.
It's just too hard. So do you have any kind of favorite characters or like standout performances?
Andy Dufresne is great. I think a lot of people, rightly so, favor Red. It's definitely Morgan Freeman's one of his strongest performances.
It's the whole narration is from Red's point of view.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
I mean that so it's kind of a weird movie in that way that it very firmly puts you with Red.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like as the viewer, he's the window into this story.
Yeah.
But it's kind of strange because you side with Andy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird. I mean, not you have anything against
Red.
Red.
Underdog going into the story than Red. So
but like you
we're
say,
British.
Yes, that's true.
But when the power's with the narrator, you do expect for you to favour that character.
Well, exactly. You expect it to be his experience, not him relating the experience to somebody else. And what I did read was that they actually had Morgan Freeman record the VO before they shot it, and they played it on set to give the actors the pacing.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's quite a slow movie. It's a long movie. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes.
20,
So I think part of that is down to him.
Credit, it doesn't feel it.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And what I read was that Morgan Freeman recorded that entire VO in 40 minutes.
Wow.
And the only reason that specific recording wasn't used in the final film was because there was a hiss on it that they couldn't remove in post. So they actually went back and did it, and they spent 3 weeks doing it. So they actually kind of honed it even more and more and more. But it just, it's just Morgan Freeman. He walks in and knocked out.
Yeah.
And this was the first time he'd done narration. Yeah. And when you think, like...
That voice, though.
It's iconic. Just
it
the concept of
iconic.
a Morgan Freeman voiceover is just such a...
Yeah,
absolutely.
Big ticket.
Yeah.
Tom, how about you? Who's your favourite character or favourite performance?
I really like Red because I think I think Tim Robbins is brilliant as Andy Dufresne. He really is, and he's got a lot to do in this film.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He goes through a lot of different. There's a lot of different elements to him.
It's a great role as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine this was one that was really hardly fought over.
Yeah. One of the people that I really enjoy watching in it is William Sadler as Haywood, actually. Who's the slightly...
I see him and I think, when the film starts, he's going to be trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, he's kind of like a bit of a goofball, kind of like
Yeah.
So I really like him. I think
He
he's
looks mad.
yeah,
too.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think his performance is really good because it's not. He performs the function that character needs to, but without making it a caricature. So he
Yes.
doesn't kind of overdo
Yeah.
it when
And
you
he
could
doesn't-
easily.
He doesn't draw the audience's
Exactly.
attention too much either.
Yeah.
He's just the right amount of.
Yeah.
He plays a little enough with it.
Yeah. So I really like him. I think the guy that plays the warden is really, really good.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's
What do you think
great.
of Clancy Brown in this?
Yeah. Again. Yeah. Clancy Brown is.
wow,
Really,
look
yeah.
at Kurgan go.
Yeah. He's really good in this, and it's. Like you say, it comes down to that all the characters are really well written. So
Yeah.
those actors have really got something to get to grips
The
with.
benefit of
Yeah.
having just a great author.
Yeah.
One of the greatest authors of all time. Just
Yeah.
Great story, great
Supplying
characters.
the story.
It's just all there.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about Clancy Brown, I read that he, loads of correctional officers offered him like advice and to be like an advisor to him to talk about stuff. And I think even people who had been correctional officers, like not maybe back in the 40s, but certainly back within the time period
yeah.
of the 80s, and he refused it all because he
that's
said that his
interesting.
character was so evil, he didn't want any of those guys to watch it and think that there was a part of them up on there on that screen,
Oh, that's nice.
which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah,
Like there was
that's really
that wealth
interesting.
of resource available, but
Yeah.
he decided to kind
Clancy
of.
Brown's probably one of the coolest men alive.
He seems like yeah. Again, it's a great role.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really hard. I struggle to pick between Andy Dufresne and Red in this in terms of like a favourite character.
Yeah.
I love the fact that when I was watching it, because I'd seen bits of it and I couldn't remember so many elements of the film, I couldn't remember if he'd done it or not.
Right. Yes.
And so for the longest time, I was like, did he do it? Like,
Yeah.
is he just an absolutely calculating, just kind of,
yeah.
is he that evil?
Yeah.
Or is he just got really bad luck? And I loved that because I couldn't remember, I kind of went on that journey again. And I really liked that. So I think it probably tips to Andy Dufresne.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if he'd done it or
Dufresne,
not.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was also trying to find out like what Red had done
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he just says he's in for murder,
And he says he's guilty.
yeah, and I found out the backstory is that he cut the brakes on his wife's car to collect an insurance claim,
Oh, gosh.
and 2 other people got in the car with her, and all 3 died.
Ooh.
And I was kind of like,
Woof.
that's so much more cold and calculated
Yeah.
than anything that like. You know, even Andy's crime is in
Crime and passion.
crime
Yeah,
of passion.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you know,
It's a
it's
hot-blooded-
hot-blooded
Yeah.
murder, not cold-blooded
Yeah.
murder. And I was kind of like, would knowing that have made me feel any different towards Red? Was it good that they cut that out? So I kind of found that fascinating. Like you say, these 2 men, for the most of the part of the film, you think these 2
Yeah.
are murderers.
They're
They,
murderers.
Yet you want their friendship to blossom and you want them to escape.
Yeah.
And, in fact, actually, at what point do you think it becomes an escape movie? Because I'd forgotten.
I don't think
That
it
element of
becomes
it.
an escape movie until escape's already happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. Because it's
'Cause-
just never... It's not an escape movie.
No. And I was just kind of like, I'm sure I remember, like
The-
there was
the
more
rock
to it
and
than
the-
that. Yeah. Like,
absolutely.
wasn't there more
The
to
little
it than
The
that?
whole
hammer.
Yeah.
point of Red being the narrator is that, with
He
him
doesn't
giving the
know.
window into the story, if the
Yeah.
narrator doesn't know, the audience will never know.
No.
Yeah. And because Red never knew.
Yeah.
And that is, like, actually, that's so... You're right. It's such a, like, hurtful moment for Red to just be like, you didn't share that with me. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't take me with you. You know?
There was no way he could have.
Oh,
No
God.
way.
No. But
No.
it's fascinating. And actually, you're right. In terms of, like, would your feelings towards Red change if you'd have known what he'd have done? And actually,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter because all along he just says, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what he did because he did it.
Yeah. And he fully accepts responsibility for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
I think that's almost redemption enough for the character.
Yeah.
The fact that he does.
Admitting that he's guilty and that he wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of anything that's particularly odd or strange about this movie? We've all kind of said we don't really get the hype. Like, we all think, obviously,
It's a good
it's a
movie.
really good movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Is it one of the top 10
yeah,
best films of all
great
time?
acting.
No.
It's, it's up there. But yeah, is it, like, what? Why is it so...
I honestly,
you
I think
it's the popularity thing?
Yeah, I think it's just that it got pushed hard on cable and on television, and it meant that lots of people who don't necessarily would go, they wouldn't go to cinema to see a prison drama. They see a movie, it makes them feel better about themselves, it makes them feel intelligent, they've kept along with it, it makes them feel like, it gives you a lot of, like...
It does glorify the viewer's intelligence.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
people
it does.
love.
Yeah.
Especially idiots.
But it kind of like, it puts it in that frame, like, you think, oh yeah, I get why this is a good movie. You get that impression from it.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much you like movies. So I think that's why it has that hype. I mean, that shouldn't detract from the fact it is a really, really, really good film. But it just, I think that is that thing. It's just, it's a really, really good film that lots of people have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the combination of the two is enough to make it become a hype.
And it's an adult film as well.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
the kind of film that you could say that you love, that you'd ever be embarrassed
No.
No,
for
not at
loving.
all.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That probably does come into play
Yeah.
when people are talking about it.
Were either of you surprised by the brutality in it?
Yeah. I didn't remember that at all.
I remember the rapes in the film, not in real life.
Like,
Because I'd forgotten all of that.
I wonder as well whether kind of when I'd seen like bits of it, I either had just missed the beginning and missed that portion of the movie, or also whether I was watching it on like TV edits. I don't know if
That's possible. It's entirely possible. I
Not
can't imagine
sure.
they would have been able to show most of the stuff that
Yeah.
Clancy Brown does
Yeah.
in this film. I
Yeah.
mean, the rapes are at least off screen, but
Yeah.
That's one of the great moments when Andy's in the infirmary and Boggs gets out of solitary and he gets back to his cell and Clancy Brown's just waiting for him, and it's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
after
yeah.
the whole, like, the like he's helped him with the money and stuff, and you're like, wow, the worst man in this prison
yeah.
Yeah.
is gonna get done over by the worst guard in this prison.
Yeah.
Like, both of them
It's a great
are
moment.
hateful
Yeah,
characters.
it is.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
they are.
really redeems the guard.
It doesn't
It
in my
does.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Like, kind of have a drink with him now. Damn it.
Yeah, then he goes on to murder people. But you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
but it does that. It kind of a bit more nuance, bit more kind of
It adds to the complexity of humans, though.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it's because
Yeah.
you see him at the beginning, and it's the they go fishing, don't they? And it's the guy that they beat him up, and obviously he dies, and you just think, oh my god, that's just so brutal.
yeah,
And that's where his level is set, like,
Yes.
as a
Yeah.
character.
right from the off.
Yeah. And then he's about to throw like Andy off the roof, and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my gosh, don't,
Yeah.
and everything kind of builds and builds. And then that's when everything shifts. And after that moment,
Yeah.
And he starts taking power.
yeah.
What it does though is it shows you that I can't remember what Clancy Brown's character's name is, but the guard he plays, it shows you that he has loyalty.
Captain Hadley.
Captain Hadley, yeah. It shows you that he has loyalty, and in that instance, his loyalty is to Andy because he's done him something. He's done
Yes.
something. He's done him a favor, and it's not right that he's being treated the way he's being treated
Yeah.
by Boggs. So it really sets up.
Do hate Boggs though.
Yeah, of course,
what
just the
creepy
worst.
Just
Yeah.
he is.
Oh,
Man.
Yeah.
that must be the sort of role as an actor you take it. You're like, people are going to hate me forever if I
Yeah.
Like
do this.
literally forever.
But, you know, it is 10 grand.
But the whole stuff with Hadley, it sets up. You know that he's going to be so loyal to the governor. What's
Yeah.
he
The
called?
warden.
Warden.
Yeah.
Because you know that that's the sort of person he is.
Yeah.
If you're in league with him, then he's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that makes. So I guess we'll get onto the bit with the character Tommy that comes in.
Yeah.
He comes in and kind of and he reveals the fact that Andy is in fact innocent,
Yeah.
and that's his purpose, and the warden has him killed by Hadley. so you're never surprised by that moment.
No. You desperately don't want it to happen, but you absolutely know it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as the meeting takes place outside,
I know,
you're
and it's
just
like, he bless his little face, and he's like, out here,
Yeah.
and you're like, don't do it,
Yeah.
don't go. Yeah, it's that's hard to watch,
yeah,
especially because obviously Andy's been through so much, and you finally realise that he's innocent, and it all just gets taken away. His option or his ability to prove his innocence is just disappears.
yeah.
We obviously we like this movie. So what kind of, we've talked about, I suppose, what's a little bit odd about it in that we don't really get the hype, although we kind of think you've explained it. So maybe we do get the hype.
Yeah, the rapes are odd. Are they just put there to sort of make the environment seem worse?
I think so.
Yeah.
But then they remove that.
I think. Well,
But I
yeah,
think
but they have
the removal
to.
is because
Are the rapes there just to give Andy Dufresne a cleaner arc?
Probably, I think, because here's the thing: you don't know at that point. You don't know that he's innocent.
yeah.
So you've got to have some form of empathy for him.
Yeah.
So they need to put him in a position where
Anyone would feel sorry for
anyone
him.
would
Yeah,
feel
because
sorry
if
for
the
him.
empathy of the fact that he's actually innocent isn't coming until
Exactly.
right near the end
I
of the
guess
film,
he can't
then,
thrive
and
initially.
you have to beat him down, and then
also it gives him, it kind of gives him a sort of a side plot point that he can it shows his character, the way he deals with all of that.
Yeah.
Shows you the sort of person he is, and it shows the other prisoners the sort of person he is. He never tells them that that's what happens,
No.
but they know.
Yeah.
and it's kind of what wins him sort of not respect, but wins him kind of acceptance in that group initially.
Because that's the thing, when he gets put in the infirmary, Red says, we need to do something nice for Andy.
Yes.
And I think it's Hayward says, just getting us the beers means we need to do something nice for Andy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, that's, you're starting to know that he's their friend now. It's
Yes,
more than
that's
that.
the
He's
thing, he
part of the
becomes their
gang.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than just being someone who they sit near.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is it still a really, really good movie?
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
Yeah.
just like last week, and we've said multiple times, setting it in a set time frame means it's unlikely to
Yes.
age.
Yeah.
It's still a great film. It will always be a great film.
Yeah. Something I do like about this film is the passage of time.
Yes.
The way, they set the pace of the prison really, really well. And they do it very simply by, he would write a letter a week, and then it's well, it only took me 6 years. And it kind of gives you, that impact of the monotony.
God,
and
lost
and
10 years of his life.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just I've been here 30 years now. And they just drip feed these little lines
Yeah.
that just sort of reinforce the repetition.
Years go by
The
the
years
character's
go-
age,
it's
but
just-
nothing has changed
That's the
inside
thing.
that.
Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing
prison.
changes.
Yeah.
It's the same walls. It's the same outfits.
Yeah.
It's just the same.
Yeah.
But you're older.
Yeah.
God, with that in mind, it really does hammer home the horror of the conviction.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. Very much so.
And it's, do you know, credit as well to the performance, because when he gets convicted and his face, he just doesn't. You know,
Yeah.
if you think, if I was innocent and I was being sent to prison and I
Yeah.
got 2 life sentences, you would react more
yeah.
if you were innocent.
Yeah.
And again, it's that play of well, but
Would he?
so
Is he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he not? Is he?
Is it shock? Is it
Yeah.
yeah.
And but then the horror of that monotony of life, just day in, day out, is awful.
Yeah. And I think there's a moment of realization, like you're talking about with him having to undergo all the raping and stuff like that, that you realize that goes on for several years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's years and years.
It's not like a one-off or a couple
Yeah.
of times. It's years that he
Yeah.
endures that. And it's one of those things that's those little things just drop in every now
Yeah.
and then. It's
It's-
Jesus.
yeah. So prison starts out being the worst place for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way the movie pivots, where prison is hell, and then the second prison starts not being hell, Brooks gets let out.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the real world is his hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works really well. Because you're
Yeah.
almost at the point with Andy kind of takes over, and,
Yeah,
and
it's
there's a bit of
becoming
you're
a
a bit
nice place to be. Like,
Yeah.
and obviously not, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you think, oh God, how much would Brooks want to be running that library, like with Andy, and yet he's on the outside free, which is what they're all striving for,
Yeah.
and just absolutely
not surviving.
not coping,
yeah.
and just can't.
Meanwhile,
Can't deal
Andy's
with it.
like Zach in Saved by the
Thriving.
Bell, just like big man on campus,
Yeah.
loving life.
Yeah,
I think like the scenes where he, like kind of like they set him up where he has no idea why he's been sent to the library, and then it becomes apparent that like, oh, he's going to be doing the tax returns for every prison officer in the county, and like
Yeah.
like all of that stuff. I think that plays out really, really well, and the fact that he kind of almost starts getting a little office together, then he gets an assistant, and it's just this little cottage industry, like he says,
absolutely.
that pops up. I think they handle all of that stuff with great charm, and it just makes you like
Yeah.
Andy more and more and more.
Yes,
and
he never
Red.
complains.
No,
No. And yeah, as the film goes on, like you say, you just like him more and more. And I loved actually the ending. Like, I'd completely forgotten that happened. I remember
yeah.
Morgan Freeman sat like by the tree.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Going to find something. So I kind of remembered that. I was like, what does he find? And I was like, I think it's money, but I couldn't place any of it. And I couldn't remember that he then goes on the bus and he goes, and you actually see him reunited with Andy, because you could have so easily not had that.
oh yeah. There are a lot of directors over there in Hollywood who would have left that open-ended.
Yeah.
left
And
it
it
at
would
the
have
tree.
pissed me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's satisfying because you don't
It
often
is.
get that.
And it's one of those things. It could be really sappy,
Yeah.
and it's done really well. Mm-hmm. They don't
So
say
well.
anything.
No.
They just see each other, and then it's that long
The
shot, like on the
and it's just,
helicopter.
it's
it just
so beautiful as
pulls
well.
back,
Like, it's
yeah.
colourful and it's bright and it's like the soft sea, and it's so contrasted against
It looks
The
like
grey.
paradise.
It
Yeah.
does.
yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of love that. Like, as an ending
Hmm.
for a film, I find that, like, as a viewer, very satisfying to
Yeah.
watch.
But what happens next?
Oh,
What does happen next, Alan? Have you
have you got
I haven't really
theory?
given it
Right,
much
come-
thought,
Okay.
to be honest, but I feel like they definitely kill themselves.
oh my gosh,
Well, we have a
so
precedent
dark.
to what happens in this universe when someone gets institutionalized and then they get out.
Yeah, but they're different because they have friendship.
They have, they have friendship.
They found
yeah.
friendship.
Maybe they fall in love.
Well,
maybe.
they're illegal immigrants in Mexico.
Yeah,
That's true.
working on a
Yeah.
little boat.
One of them is, under a fake name,
And one of
under
them's broken
papers
parole.
that admittedly exist, and I'm
Yeah.
sure are any kind of digging will probably unveil
Yeah.
that he isn't really there.
Oh,
He
yeah.
isn't really like who he says he is, and looks a lot like an ex-con. Not an ex-con, a current con, an
Yeah.
escaped convict. It wouldn't take a lot for people to track Red, especially if he's using
No.
his real name.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They know that they were friends in real life. They could track.
And he's broken his parole.
They could
Yeah.
track
So
Andy
he could go back to
Dufresne.
jail for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't take a lot to track him.
No.
No, that's true.
So either they both die or they both go back to prison. Basically, we do
I
not
don't-
want to watch The Shawshank Redemption 2.
I think Red would go back to prison. I don't think Andy would. I think Andy would be let off because he uncovers the
Yeah.
corruption.
A corruption conspiracy. Yeah.
And in theory, with the warden out of the way, he could, if he got Hadley to confess to shooting Tommy,
Yeah.
he then has a bit more substance to
The
go
only-
after the
That's
alibi.
evident, let's
the
have
only
land.
the only sticky. Well, I mean, Hadley might have been electrified
Oh,
because
yeah.
you know
Time.
Yeah.
if he was done for murder. The only sticking point is the 300 grand that Andy's got squirreled away under the beach.
That's a yeah.
Yeah.
Big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an issue.
But I do like that. I like that the warden gets sort of hoisted by his own petard. And like
Yes,
the
yeah.
whole scam of
I
it.
love that character. I think he's great. Like, I think it's a great character development because I hadn't remembered any of that. Like,
Yeah.
I
The
completely
super
forgot.
pious guy comes in spouting the Bible.
Yeah.
It turns out
Yeah.
he's the most crooked one of all.
Absolutely, I'd forgotten he
Classic
was so
characterization.
evil though. Like when he puts Andy, when he opens the door and he's
Yeah.
been in solitary for like a month,
Yeah.
and he tells him about Tommy, and then he's literally just like, "Oh, another month."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh my gosh, how can you do that to someone?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I forgot how evil he was.
Yeah.
He is not a good guy.
happened to Tim Robbins? If we can all agree that Tim Robbins put in a fantastic performance in The Shawshank Redemption, and we can all agree that The Shawshank Redemption is one of the best received films of all time, if we don't necessarily agree that it is one of the best films of all time, why did Tim Robbins' career never go the direction that Morgan Freeman's did?
I'm actually just gonna have a little peruse and
Well,
find
it
out. No, it definitely didn't, did it?
No. He's been in a couple of big movies.
He's he's very politically vocal.
Oh.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That might be something. I don't know. I wouldn't really know. Yeah, I don't.
Because
No, I'm
what
not
a
sure.
role.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah,
what a
yeah.
performance as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like, he's
I don't know
great.
if it partly was by choice, if it was, maybe just it didn't kind of.
Just didn't line up for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
But he, the next film I heard of he was in was 9 years later in Mystic River.
Wow. Maybe he just took some time out.
Yeah,
I
maybe
don't
he
know.
had a gap. I mean, he had two sons with Susan Sarandon.
Well, that's going to keep you busy.
So,
And then you have two sons.
1988. 1988 to 2009. They were together. Yeah, maybe he was busy being a dad.
Perhaps. Okay, so he was in War of the Worlds. Yeah, I remember that. Of course, he was in Anchorman, Mystic River.
Is he an Anchorman?
He is an
Yeah.
Anchorman, but it's a cameo.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he plays the public service broadcaster.
Oh, I kind of
News
blocked that
anchor.
film out.
It's a lot
I
of
just don't
cameos,
like it.
really.
No, don't like it. Not a fan. Yeah, he.
Yeah. I don't think
It's
he.
odd.
I feel like he never. I don't know
Maybe
if
he
he ever
just
wanted
didn't
to be
want
the
to go
big.
that way. Yeah.
I mean, he was in some. He was in some really good movies. He was in some Coen Brothers stuff, and he was in. Oh God, what's the Robert Altman film? The Player is the one I'm thinking of.
All right.
Oh, okay.
That was one of his big movies,
Yeah,
which was
maybe
just
he
shortly
just
before.
never had it all lined up. Maybe his politics prevented him from becoming the big lead man that this performance telegraphed that he should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll never know until we get to see behind the music on Tim Robbins or whatever it is. No ruminations on the possibilities of carrying just that much dirt in your sock day on day. I mean, he must have had a gravelly foot for the longest time.
Gravelly foot.
Just the graveliest
Wow.
foot. And then he had
Okay.
he had to kind of crawl through poo.
Yeah, not ideal.
yeah.
I mean, well, because you.
That's
yeah,
rough.
That's hardcore. When did he actually dig the hole then? Okay.
From getting
From
rock
getting the hammer.
No, like what time of day?
at night.
Night.
So when did he sleep? I mean, that must have taken him. Because how long does Morgan?
He's in there
Rex-
for. He's in there for.
You get a long time. Like,
Yeah.
so Sophie sleeps a long time.
Yeah,
You're a keen
I
sleeper.
think it's like a normal amount of time, but sure.
So let's assume that he's digging at night. So
Yeah.
let's say
Yeah,
he's got
gotta
an
be.
opportunity of between 8 and 12 hours, right? Depending on if
At
it's
least.
summer
Yeah,
or winter.
okay,
or
I guess.
Well, no, because I mean he's got to be after lights out,
yeah.
and it's got to be
It's-
when it's dark.
When it's so people no one can see in case because
Exactly.
prisoners across the way can't
Yep.
see.
Yeah.
And he's got to have stopped by any time there's natural daylight because
Yep.
again
They'd
he's
be able
got
to
a
see.
risk of being seen.
Yeah. So
That's probably a window of maybe 6 hours.
yeah, depending on time of year,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And then I guess he's there. I mean, how thick is that wall? Because
Well,
he only
exactly.
tunnels through one wall.
Yeah, and then the rest he's
And the rest he's just jumping down and going
yeah.
through the pipe and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that wall's got to be 8 feet,
I mean
10 feet
at
thick
least, yeah.
because like he's 6 foot whatever, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
and he's crawling like it seems for like a fair
Exactly.
amount of time.
Yeah. And it takes him 19 years. That seems fairly reasonable.
Yeah, okay, when you put it like that.
Yeah.
19 years and a
19
few
years
hours
for that
every night.
tiny
Exactly.
tool.
Yeah. Even if he was doing like 3 or 4 hours a night, that's probably you
But
know.
he must have only been getting like 3 hours sleep. Like 4 hours sleep.
Okay, so lights out in prisons. I just Googled and it's offered up 11 p.m.
Really that late?
Wow.
I would have thought
Which
it
is
would have been
way
like,
later. I would have thght it would be like 9.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he would have had to have waited till like 1 most nights before he could start.
Well, I bet his biggest problem was the scratching sound
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound carries at night.
Yep.
in a stone building.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you'd have. I don't know.
Reverb
that's
is
a
not
challenge.
his friend.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But like you say, I suppose 19 years, I mean,
19
that's
years.
probably enough time,
But
right?
carrying the dirt out is the craziest thing to me.
Yeah, you've got an issue with
Yeah.
that.
It's a bit Great Escape, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the only bit, actually, that scene when you see him
Handfuls.
handfuls of it, and he's shaking his like trouser leg.
So is
for the-
is he digging 2 handfuls a night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's got to
Or
be.
is he doing more and then like
2 handfuls a night for 19 years.
Because he's got to. He can't
gotta be
have.
more than
he
that,
can't
surely,
have
right?
too much because obviously
Yeah.
you'd see it in his pockets.
Well, he can't like go to his cell and then back out to the yard, and then
Right,
back to
yeah.
his cell and then back out to the
yeah,
yard.
because people were like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
I really needed to go. Bad tummy, too much maggoty potatoes.
Oh, that is just. Oof. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, 19 years. That's okay. All right, that's settled with me now.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
You okay there?
Yeah. We haven't actually addressed the fact that obviously we don't really hear about it until after we know that Andy's innocent. But he talks about his wife and how, because he never was able to tell her how he felt, that's why she cheated and that's why she drifted away from him. And that's
Right.
just so sad.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that is something they don't really go into a whole lot, I guess.
No.
But then I suppose that needs, because the thing about Andy is that he likes to keep himself a bit of an enigma,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
and he doesn't share.
No.
So it's completely within his character, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it makes
that's,
complete sense
That's how it
as a
would be that
character.
he and
But it's interesting that as an audience, obviously because it's being narrated by
Yeah.
Red, we can't know that until Red knows.
I guess what it does kind of prove is that from the moment Andy gets to prison, he seems to just be resigned to the fact that he's there. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't seem to rally against
No,
it.
he doesn't have much fight against it, does he?
And I guess it's because even though he didn't commit the crime, he blames himself for her death,
Yeah.
which he does
'Cause
say
he
at
says,
one point, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's
So-
my fault.
Yeah, so I guess that even though, because of that guilt, he feels
Mm-hmm.
that he does deserve to be there in some way.
Yeah. And actually that moment as well, I suppose, gives more weight to his friendship with Red, because the fact that he couldn't even open up with his wife and tell her what she meant to him,
Yeah.
the fact that he has become friends with Red makes it even more unusual for his character to be that close with someone.
Yeah. And I guess it's kind of like, it also, again, it amplifies their relationship because he's suddenly got someone he can talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
it's even more upsetting when they then get split up, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, God, you've just lost each other.
Yeah.
Great piece of trivia.
Oh,
for
okay.
Shawshank Redemption. This is okay. So the American Humane Society monitored the filming of scenes that involved Brooks's crow.
All right, yeah.
During the scene where he fed it a maggot, the American Humane Society objected.
Okay.
Sophie, can you guess on what grounds?
I mean, my bird knowledge is like slim. No, I have no idea.
Tom?
I mean, if they're objecting to it, it has to be because of the maggot, right?
That is cruel to the maggot.
Yeah.
So the crew had to find a maggot that had died of natural causes.
Oh my goodness. Wow, they were on it.
They would have had there's an on-site doctor, and it's like, no, this one, heart
Yeah.
attack.
Heart
Yeah,
attack.
no, this one got strangled.
this maggot, had a stroke.
Wow.
I did read that they couldn't get the crow to squawk on cue,
Oh, of course.
which they
Because
obviously
it's a
wanted
crow.
because it's a crow. So the actors learnt the way the pattern in which the crow squawked,
Oh, really?
and then timed their lines to coincide
with
the
that's
crow
so
to make the scenes
interesting.
work when they needed it to make sense.
Yeah.
So like there's one where I think Andy's walking through the thing, and the crow punctuates his sentences. And I think it does it like 2 or 3 times, and it was just practice and timing to
Oh,
get that
that's
right.
really great.
Which is just it's that sort of attention to detail. That's the
Yeah.
sort of thing that that's why everyone thinks it's a good movie.
Yeah. Which evidently we do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
That
think?
scene is so sad when he says goodbye to the crow. Oh.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Not the Crow.
Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about. We were talking about a little bit about how it's shot.
Yes.
It was shot by Roger Deakins,
Oh.
who, went on to do multiple Coen brother films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done like the recent Blade Runner. He's probably, I'd argue, he's possibly the most well-known cinematographer of the modern day.
Possibly, yeah.
Like outside of, like most people, if you think about a cinematographer, he's one of the ones that you'd be able to name.
He's a
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. And like, this would have been, I think, he started his career in the early 80s, like doing features. So he was kind of just hitting his stride here. I think it looks great.
It's a great looking film. There's no doubt about it. A lot of natural talent in Roger Deakins. He only went on to hone even more.
Yeah.
So Tom Hanks nearly played Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, I can see that. And
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood as Red.
Oh, really?
Because Red's called Red because he's supposed to be an old Irishman.
Yeah. Rob Reiner wanted to direct this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I could kind of see that working.
This is one of these projects where when a project this comes along, a lot of people want a piece
Yeah.
Yeah, that
of,
makes
of
sense.
the pie.
Yeah.
It's,
I could
a
totally see
brilliant
this as
script.
Tom Hanks and Clint Eastwood, though.
yeah.
I think it would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a really different film.
It would be, yeah.
I think.
It's hard to fault, it's hard to picture Tom Hanks in a lot of roles and not think he would have just nailed it.
Yeah.
This in
Yeah.
particular
Yes.
is right up Tom Hanks'
Yeah.
But
street.
that leads us directly
I
to the
don't
Green
know
Mile,
whether-
Yes.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is it's a Stephen King story, Frank Darabont written and directed,
Yeah.
starring Tom
Smells
Hanks.
of Tom Hanks's
Yeah.
Which I do believe
regret at not doing Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, doesn't it just? Yeah.
we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. I think.
Yeah, it's on it. Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah.
on the list. Yeah,
But do you think Clint Eastwood would have done a good job?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
you ever,
I mean, he's
have you ever
pretty-
seen
he's pretty great.
things like Escape from Alcatraz and stuff like that?
No, I haven't.
See, that's a great film.
Yeah, that's a great film, and so he could absolutely do it.
When I think of Clint Eastwood, I think of like Gran Torino.
Yeah, but
his
even
later
him in
stuff.
Gran Torino, like that kind of, he could do that.
He's got
he could
that,
do that.
like charisma and kind of.
Yeah. I think he would have been a gruffer Red,
Yes.
but he
yes,
would have.
Absolutely.
He can bring the charm when he needs to.
Yeah.
Like the Dirty Harry sort of twinkle, like
It would have
that
been
kind of
so different. Yeah.
it would have been very different.
Such
but
a
I
different
can-
interpretation of the character.
Yeah, Escape from Alcatraz is a good movie.
I can't believe you've not seen that.
I haven't seen it.
I find it surprising.
Yeah.
You should watch that.
John Favreau is nearly in the Shawshank Redemption.
Really? That's who?
As the fat guy who gets made to cry
Oh,
in the opening.
that's horrible.
wow.
That
Film.
scene. I did
Yeah,
not
it
like
is,
that.
yeah.
John Favreau says it was the audition that made him decide to start losing weight.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Wow.
Like, imagine being John Favreau and getting cast as a character literally called Fat Ass.
Oh,
That's
like-
fair. Yeah.
Oh.
Imagine. Well,
John
imagine
Favreau had a lot of ambition around that time. in
yeah, of
Hollywood.
course. Yeah. Imagine getting the phone call from your agent though. I've got you an audition for a role.
oh
What is
yeah,
it?
That's
Oh.
brutal.
Yeah, this character called Fat Ass. What does he do? He's fat and he cries.
Then he dies.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a phone call you want to get, really, is it?
not at all.
Not at all. What do we think about the tagline from the movie, which is
Okay.
that fear can hold you prisoner and hope can set you free?
Oh, I hate it.
Well, we've talked a lot about the fact that like they all kind of fear hope, fear freedom.
Yes.
Like it doesn't actually set them.
What I think is kind of interesting is that both Andy and Red have very opposing ideas of what hope is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Red's very anti-hope because it drives you mad.
Yes.
And I can definitely see and relate to that. And then I can kind of also see Andy's point of view. And I kind of feel like Red's point of view works very well when you're stuck in a prison.
Yeah.
Andy's point of view works very well when you're not.
When you're escaping from a prison, it's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting kind of thing that they kind of...
Yeah.
Bit of duality. to
Yeah,
him.
yeah, but and Andy is kind of like, see, I proved you right, and it's just like, well, no, he just got let out.
Yeah,
so he
yeah.
has just
Yeah.
a different point of view now. But yeah,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
As a
you've discovered what a
tagline.
circumstance is. Well done.
yes,
So thanks everyone for listening. I think that's a wrap on Shawshank Redemption. Next week we are going to be talking.
Shawshank Redemption a long time ago. Thank you very much. Carry on.
Next week we're going to be talking about Dune. So tune in for that. Thanks ever so much for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.
bye.
This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat Studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @upbeatprod to see what we're up to, and @upbeat_ents for our film coverage and entertainment news.